The first black SUV appeared suddenly like a dark shadow on the dusty Lagos road ahead. Then another followed quickly, and soon a third joined, forming an unexpected convoy. In mere seconds, the once quiet street transformed into something strange and completely unfamiliar. Tires crunched loudly on loose gravel, while powerful engines hummed with low intensity. Tinted windows reflected the harsh afternoon Los Angeles-like sun, beating down relentlessly. People who had casually walked past the old beggar woman suddenly stopped moving. A busy bus conductor froze completely mid-shout while calling passengers to board. A woman selling sachets of pure water forgot entirely to collect her money. Even the noisy generator from a nearby kiosk seemed quieter and less bold. Right there on the dusty road edge, Madame Sandra slowly stood up tall. She carefully wiped fresh tears from her weathered cheeks with trembling fingers. She straightened her faded, tattered Ankara wrapper with deliberate, dignified movements. Then she lifted her chin proudly, like a true queen reclaiming her throne. Simon, the struggling mechanic who spent his last $6 on her meal, stared intensely. His eyes hurt from staring so hard at the unfolding dramatic scene. Security men emerged swiftly from the SUVs without any smiles or jokes. They moved with professional speed and formed a tight protective line instantly. They bowed respectfully at the same exact moment in perfect synchronization. "Good afternoon, Ma," one security man said with sharp, respectful tone. Simon's knees weakened dramatically as shock coursed through his entire body. He looked repeatedly from the men to the impressive luxury SUVs, then back to Madame Sandra, mouth open wide, without any words. Madame Sandra turned slowly toward him with eyes still wet from tears. Her face remained unnaturally calm despite the dramatic transformation around her. She stepped closer to Simon with measured, deliberate, graceful steps. "Madam, we've been desperately searching everywhere for you," he began, shaking. Madame Sandra raised one hand calmly and he stopped speaking instantly. One man hissed, angrily telling the old woman to shift. "Ma, who exactly are you?" he managed to ask. Madame Sandra didn't answer immediately, keeping dramatic suspense. She reached down carefully, picking up her small old handbag. The dusty bag looked empty and completely ordinary before. She opened it slowly, revealing a sleek, expensive smartphone. The watching crowd gasped loudly at the surprising sight. Simon's stomach dropped sharply with growing realization and shock. Madame Sandra tapped the phone screen once and held it. Her voice changed instantly, becoming confident, firm and authoritative. "Driver, I'm currently at the dusty road near restaurant." "Yes, come immediately," she instructed, clearly ending the call. She slipped the expensive phone back into her bag calmly. Simon's racing mind struggled to process the dramatic shift. Security men scanned surroundings constantly with professional, vigilant eyes. One guard had communication device clearly visible in ear. Another kept hand positioned near jacket, ready for danger. Simon swallowed hard, feeling increasing fear and confusion. "Madam, are you perhaps in some serious trouble?" he asked. Madame Sandra looked warmly at him with strange, gentle eyes. "No, my son, not exactly the trouble you think." Simon's heart beat even faster with mounting nervous anticipation. The pressing crowd grew louder, whispering various wild theories. A man asked loudly if she was an important politician. A woman begged forgiveness, claiming they didn't recognize her. Someone shouted, wondering if it was elaborate prank filming. Madame Sandra ignored everyone, focusing solely on honest Simon. She asked him the question he posed earlier softly. "Why exactly did you buy food for me, Simon?" Simon blinked repeatedly, feeling confused by her emotional tone. He expected anger or mockery, but heard genuine feeling. Simon glanced down at takeaway pack still in her hand. His throat tightened painfully, remembering his own empty pockets. "Because everyone completely ignored you," he answered simply, honestly. Madame Sandra's eyes shone brightly, with fresh emotional tears. "But you yourself are clearly poor and struggling daily. I could easily see it in your worn shoes. Your stained clothes and tired face showed obvious hardship. Why spend your very last money on unknown stranger?" Simon's chest rose and fell heavily under intense stares. He felt everyone watching him like something significant happening. "It's truly all I had. Exactly $6 precious." The listening crowd murmured loudly, repeating the small amount. "But Ma, you are elderly," and visibly crying deeply. Madame Sandra nodded slowly, answering yes and no simultaneously. Before further questions, biggest SUV door opened dramatically. He walked straight, bowing deeply before Madame Sandra respectfully. "Madame Sandra, we are fully ready now," he announced. The crowd exploded into excited, loud, speculative whispers. Madame Sandra turned calmly, facing Simon with powerful expression. "Simon, my complete name is Sandra Ebeque," she revealed. Madame Sandra stepped closer, confirming with quiet, confident yes. She pointed gently at impressive lineup of luxury SUVs. "I am indeed the billionaire CEO of Sandra Group." The entire world seemed to tilt dangerously for Simon. He felt road shifting beneath feet like unstable ground. His ears rang loudly, blocking out surrounding crowd noise. All he heard was pounding heartbeat and her words. "Billionaire CEO," repeated endlessly in his shocked mind. Madame Sandra watched his reaction carefully, expecting possible flight. Instead, Simon stood frozen, shaking uncontrollably in pure awe. Then she spoke words, making his breath catch sharply. "Get into the luxury car with me now, Simon." The crowd gasped collectively with renewed excited energy. Someone shouted, "Lucky boy," while another muttered jealousy. Another voice declared, "Only kind people truly win." Simon screamed internally, questioning entering her elite world. Madame Sandra held out her hand with serious eyes, something important and decided reflected in her gaze. Simon looked at her hand, then SUVs, then guards. His mouth dried completely as he lifted foot. A loud interrupting voice suddenly cut through excited crowd. "Madam, please don't go anywhere with that man." Everyone turned quickly toward the pushing, shouting man. He sweated heavily, pointing accusingly directly at Simon. "He is actually a dangerous thief pretending innocence." Simon froze completely as new life seemed to wobble. Madame Sandra kept hand outstretched while eyes hardened sharply. "Who exactly are you?" she asked slowly, dangerously. "And why are you boldly lying about honest Simon?" The dusty road fell into tense, expectant silence. Even distant generator noise seemed suddenly far away. The shouting man breathed heavily with visible nervousness. Sweat glistened brightly on his tense forehead. His shirt remained half-tucked, showing clear, hurried state. His eyes darted everywhere, avoiding Madame Sandra directly. "Madame, I truly don't know that strange man. I swear completely on everything I don't know." The murmuring crowd speculated if mechanic was thief. Madame Sandra remained motionless, hand still toward Simon. Her sharp eyes repeated questions, slow and dangerous. "Who are you and why lying about Simon?" The man swallowed, visibly forcing fake, unconvincing laugh. "My name is actually Kunle," he finally admitted. "I'm merely a very concerned, ordinary citizen, madam. I personally know this boy very well indeed." One security man stepped forward, offering to remove. Kunle's eyes widened dramatically in sudden visible fear. "No, please, I'm sincerely telling absolute truth here." Simon tried remembering if face looked somehow familiar. Then sharp memory suddenly hit him like slap. Last week, customer brought Toyota refusing full payment. He argued, shouted, threatened, then stormed away angrily. "You're exactly that difficult customer," Simon pointed accusingly. "You refused paying fully after I repaired car." The crowd reacted loudly with surprised, understanding sounds. Kunle tightened lips, trying quick defensive comeback. "He's desperately trying to change real story. Madame, he steals valuable parts from customer cars." "That's complete lie. I never stole anything ever." Madame Sandra's piercing gaze shifted between both men. For a moment, Simon felt she saw directly inside. She instructed guard to search words, not noise. Another guard approached Kunle, requesting to see phone. Kunle barked refusal, claiming Nigerian rights strongly. But his shaking voice betrayed growing real fear. The guard stepped closer without any further argument. Kunle backed away quickly, then suddenly turned. He attempted desperate escape, triggering immediate guard action. Two guards grabbed him firmly despite loud struggles. Kunle yelled desperately, claiming he protected her. Madame Sandra approached calmly, holding her expensive phone. "You don't truly understand real meaning protection." She ordered guard to thoroughly check his phone. Kunle screamed desperately, begging her not to proceed. The guard retrieved phone anyway, examining contents carefully. His expression changed noticeably, showing important discovery. He showed screen directly to Madame Sandra respectfully. "Madame, he has several messages concerning you." Kunle's legs visibly shook with increasing terror. Madame Sandra read messages with cold, disappointed expression. She asked calmly, who exactly sent him there? Kunle stammered incoherently, unable to answer properly. Madame Sandra already knew powerful enemies behind. People wanting control, destruction, or damaging scandal. Simon understood test was also a clever trap. to expose clean hearts and hidden dangerous snakes. Madame Sandra ordered, keeping phone as clear evidence. She turned softer toward shaken, honest Simon. Simon, do you still wish entering car? Simon felt miracle turning potentially into dangerous fire. But remembering her tears and trembling old hands, he knew he helped because it was right. Simon nodded firmly, saying yes, he would enter. The excited crowd erupted into mixed loud reactions. Some clapped enthusiastically, while others hissed jealous sounds. Madame Sandra ordered guards, clearing road for departure. Guards formed efficient path through pressing curious crowd. Madame Sandra walked first, tall, steady and dignified. Simon followed closely, legs still trembling uncontrollably. He paused, staring at luxurious soft leather seats, cool, refreshing AC air and expensive perfume smell. He had never experienced such luxury vehicle before. He climbed in carefully as Madame Sandra followed. The door closed, shutting outside world completely. Crowd became blurry, distant behind dark-tinted glass. Simon swallowed, staring straight ahead, feeling extremely nervous. Madame Sandra studied him quietly with gentle understanding. You look ready to jump out any moment. Simon gave small, shaky, embarrassed, nervous laugh. I have honestly never sat in car like. Madame Sandra's eyes softened noticeably with warm empathy. You will definitely get used to it soon. But luxurious car is not actual real gift. Simon turned, confused, asking what true gift was. Madame Sandra leaned back, speaking like sharing secret. Today, Simon, you did what most never do. You saw suffering old woman and treated important. Simon felt eyes sting suddenly with unexpected emotion. Heavy feeling rose powerfully deep within his chest. Madame Sandra continued sharing her personal, painful past. I have personally walked roads feeling completely invisible. Simon listened carefully, barely breathing in deep attention. Madame Sandra explained, testing hearts while facing threats. Someone trying destroying company through damaging stories. They wanted public, believing she was cruel. Simon asked why enemies wanted harming her. Because I firmly refused signing unfair deal making them rich, destroying worker jobs. Simon understood deeper, dangerous corporate battle stakes. Madame Sandra explained Kunle sent creating trouble. If Simon appeared greedy, they would record, using footage claiming planned elaborate scam together. Simon realized he could easily face arrest. Madame Sandra confirmed yes, or possibly worse. Simon felt hands turn icy cold with fear. Madame Sandra held up bottled water he bought. This small water showed your true good character. She declared strong desire, changing his life. Simon stared, completely stunned by generous declaration. Madame Sandra instructed driver visiting his workshop. Simon repeated workshop in surprised, questioning tone. Yes, she confirmed, wanting seeing his workplace. Simon directed driver shakily to modest location. Convoy moved smoothly through busy Lagos traffic. Simon watched familiar streets passing, feeling sudden shame. Billionaire visiting his poor, struggling small workshop. He worried she might suddenly change generous mind. Madame Sandra noticed his growing visible discomfort. She pulled official thick document envelope calmly. She placed it carefully on his nervous lap. Open this envelope slowly, she instructed gently. Simon asked what important contents were inside. It's definitely the very first transformation step. Simon opened, seeing architectural building plans document. Bold letters declared Simon Otto's workshop headquarters. Modern professional design completely transformed his place. Madame, this simply cannot possibly be real. Madame Sandra confirmed it was absolutely real. By month end, no longer called poor. Then she added something, making fear return. Unless unexpected events change everything dramatically today. Simon asked what she possibly meant now. Madame Sandra revealed receiving concerning following message. Someone actively following their moving luxury convoy. Simon turned, seeing dark car matching speed, keeping careful distance, but clearly tailing them. Madame Sandra confirmed they followed since departure. Simon suggested maybe just normal Lagos traffic. She explained long experience recognizing real danger. She instructed driver taking longer alternative route. Convoy turned onto smaller pothole-filled busy road. The suspicious dark car hesitated, then followed. Simon confirmed they were still persistently there. Madame Sandra declared now she knew intentions.